My dear friends, a very, very heartfelt welcome to you on behalf of Sally Jo and myself. Let's do a few ohms or ohms. Deep breath. One more time. So once again, my dear friends, a very, very heartfelt welcome to you, and please know your presence is truly a blessing in our Interfaith Community Sanctuary. And now we have some wonderful music.
So greetings again and welcome to you all, and thank you for showing up for your appointment with life this morning. And we're gathered here to water the seeds of joy within us, and we will be doing that throughout our service today, and with our very wonderful guest speaker, Terry Hershey, who's back by popular demand, having come last year with a wonderful sharing, and we'll be hearing from him in just a few minutes. But to start with, just to start this part of the program, we will be inviting our ancestors, and Rashid is going to help us with that this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally Jo. We come to the point now where we invite our ancestors in. Not just any ancestors. I have my own, but she had something else, and I thought, well, this is really lovely. This is from the book written by Thich Nhat Hanh, talks about the ancestors. I am the continuation of my parents. I am the continuation of my ancestors. This is very clear. I do not have a separate self. Looking into myself, I can see my father, my mother, in every cell of my body. I can see my ancestors in every cell of my body. I can see my country, my people, in every cell of my body. I can see that I am made of many elements that can be described as non-me elements. I am made of non-me elements, and when these elements come together, they produce me. So I am that. I do not have a separate existence. I do not have a separate self. From the book of Thich Nhat Hanh. And as we gather here today, we do so on the ancestral homelands of the first peoples of the Northwest, the Coast Salish tribe, which include the Duwamish. Now, we at Interfaith Community Sanctuary acknowledge that we are on the unceded lands of the Duwamish people. And we want to bring to light their ancient heritage. We acknowledge the importance of and express gratitude for their stewardship of this land that we now occupy, which they have carried forth for many centuries and continue to do so today. We ask forgiveness for the injustices, injuries, and deaths our invasion has cost them. We pray forgiveness. We look forward to a future of working together to restore and revitalize our lands and prepare to get and people together so that we may all live in harmony for many centuries to come. Blessed be.
Thank you so much, Rashid. And I've asked Brother Jamal to lead us in a chant to celebrate the divine feminine this morning.
So, my dear friend, a chant honoring the divine feminine, most deeply revered in Islamic spirituality. The first one is Maryam, Mary, mother of Jesus, peace be upon both of them. And by the way, Mary has in the Quran an entire chapter, chapter 19, called Maryam. The second one is Asiya, wife of the Pharaoh, because she rescued Moses from the waters. She's highly revered in Islam. Third one is Khadija, the wife of the Prophet Muhammad, who was 15 years his senior in age. And they were married for 25 years till she died, actually, when Prophet Muhammad became a widower. So the chant is Hazrati Bibi, we'll start with Maryam. Hazrati Bibi Maryam, Assalamu alaikum. It means, oh beloved Maryam, peace be upon you. And she replies, peace be upon you. Hazrati Bibi Maryam, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. And she replies, Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam. Asiya. Hazrati Bibi Asiya. Assalamu alaikum. She replies, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Now she replies actually, Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam. Khadija. Hazrati Bibi Khadija. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. Wa alaikum assalam. and just being very still with that for a few moments.
And now it is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome our guest today, Terry Hershey. Some of you have heard him speak here before. Others may not have heard him yet, but maybe you've seen him on the web. He has a wonderful, I don't know what you call it, daily and weekly announcement what is it called again, Terry? Sabbath Moments. I know after he was here last year, I signed up for that the very next day because I was so inspired by his teachings. He is an inspirational speaker. He speaks all over the country. He's a humorist. He's an author. He's a dad. He is or was a Protestant minister, and he's a landscape designer. He understands about gardens, which I know we appreciate around here too. He's addicted to golf. We'll see if we can help him with that at some point. I don't know why he calls it an addiction, but it's a positive addiction. He lives not on Vashon Island, but tell me where it is again. Now you live Port Ludlow, over on the peninsula. And his work has been featured on many the Hallmark channels, CNN, PBS, NPR. He holds a mirror up to our fast-forward, disconnected lives and offers us the power of pause, the wisdom of doing less and living more, in order to regain emotional and spiritual balance, to find the sacred in every day. And he's written many books. I'm going to let him speak for himself, but I think you will also find for yourself how much Terry's message coordinates and synchronizes with the discernment we have this year at Interfaith Community Sanctuary, and the way we are working on the overall topic of engaged Buddhism, collective awakening, and beloved community. And we've broken it down into many different topics, but I have a feeling Terry will go his own way this morning on his topic, which is called Walking One Another Home. So let's welcome Terry to our sanctuary this morning.
This is the most fun part about, because some of you can relate, at a certain age with technology, many of us are Luddites. Actually, my neighbors, I was raised in southern Michigan, and all my neighbors were literally Amish people, which is not a bad way to live in our culture. And so I always feel a little disconnected from the technology these days. My son actually, whatever the device is, because I can't figure it out, he just takes it out of my hand and said, "Dad, let me do this for you," and then gives it back to me. So I loved the chant we did. What is it? Let peace
And blessings be upon you.
Yeah.
Peace and blessings be upon you.
Peace be upon you. That's great. That's a great start for this. Is it Brent? Is that? Bryce. I knew it was a B. But I just wanted to say thank you for wearing a Mariner shirt today. Got to throw that out there. And secondly, I realized this morning, well, it's nice. It's going to be a beautiful day now, but it felt like winter this morning. So it had that. It's very Seattle, isn't it? So you have in front of you the quote, and we're going to actually read this together. So it's on the front. It's a quote by a young woman named Eddie Hillesum. And I want us to begin there and see if we can unpack this. Let us read. Ultimately, we have just one moral duty: to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace, and to reflect it toward others. And the more peace there is in us, the more peace there will also be in our troubled world. Wow. Curiosity, does anyone know who Eddie Hillesum was? Oh, that's good. This is good. Eddie Hillesum died at age 29 in a place called Auschwitz. In her late 20s, when I don't know how long she was in Auschwitz, she was there for a while before she was killed. And so she wrote journals, books, and that's the kind of writing she did. My point is, she wrote that in Auschwitz. In other words, this wasn't, let's find more and more peace because everything is so untested. You know, everything is so balanced and easy. Everything, no, she said, there's the possibility even with that. So I was writing, thank you for mentioning, I don't know what you call it, used to call it a blog, but now it comes out, it's called Sabbath Moment. And I was writing the one that's coming out tomorrow, and I wanted to, I'm writing about a woman named Mother Pollard. Do any of you heard of Mother Pollard? Okay, Mother Pollard was a friend of Dr. Martin Luther King. Not just a friend, Mother Pollard was a member of his church. And whenever King marched, and any of the marches, Mother Pollard was always at one of the marches, including Selma, but she was always at one of the marches. And I loved this story. Mother Pollard was at Dexter. Oh, let me find where I was writing. It's one of those, I was writing, and then I changed my mind. Mother Pollard was one of the elders at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, during the bus boycott of 55-56. And when her pastor, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., suggested she go back to the buses because she was too old to keep walking, here's what Mother Pollard said. Dr. King, I like it. Dr. King, she said, I'm going to walk just as long as everybody else walks. I'm going to walk till it's over. And King marveled and he said, but aren't your feet tired? And this is Mother Pollard. She said, Dr. King, my feet is tired, but my soul is rested. Yeah. Here's what I know. Tired is one thing, but being soulless is something else altogether. Mother Pollard knew this, and I doubt she Googled it or went to a workshop to figure it out. This wasn't something to run from because she knew in her bones this reality, regardless of my circumstances, I am whole and filled with grace and sufficiency. That'll preach. Which meant that for Mother Pollard, she rested, her rested soul allowed her to live fully into this life. Let me repeat, her rested soul allowed her to live fully into this life. And I read that the best beauty product is actually to have a life. She walked toward and not away from this life. She walked toward and not away from this life because she knew in her bones this reality, regardless of my, I'm still whole. And this life included the contradictions, the frustrations, the weariness, the injustices, and the tired feet. She was able to walk toward because she had a rested soul. And so here's the questions that we're going to unpack today is where do we go to replenish that well? Where do we go to nourish that soul? Where do we go to be bathed in peace? You ready? And how do we do it with each other? That's the interesting part. I was just oh, that's a nice wine. I was just recently speaking with a senior care center, and a lot of them do memory care, hospice care, any variety of the senior care. And I was, my topic was emotional and spiritual hydration. Because I was talking about the fact that, not that long ago when y'all had an 85-degree day, and it was hot. And when those days happen, we say to each other, have you had your water? In other words, you need to stay hydrated. Well, it's interesting, when life gets crazy and nuts and we get bounced around, it wouldn't hurt to ask each other, have you been emotionally hydrated? In other words, have you been spiritually hydrated? So what do we do for emotional and spiritual hydration? Now we're back to the peace coming back part. And so we were talking about emotional and spiritual hydration, and I told them a story. I was invited to the Kaiser's. It's big medical here, and Kaiser has a lot of hospice beds here in Seattle area, over 500. It's big. Hospice care is big for them. And I was speaking to the hospice care workers. And I said, this is about emotional and spiritual hydration, but I need to tell you, this is going to be a very selfish talk. I want you to be emotionally and spiritually hydrated. I do. And here's why. Because one day I'm going to need one of you. We start there, my friends. You look at whoever you want in the room. Here's the deal. We're on this journey together. And one day we need one another. And so how do we begin that process? We'll unpack. I've got 2 or 3 stories. But first, Charlie Parker. Tell me who Charlie Parker was. Jazz, what did he play? Very good. Good job, you guys. Charlie Parker. This is a good quote. Take this one home with you. He said, if it ain't in you, it can't come out of your horn. Not bad, huh? If it ain't in you, it can't come out of your horn. And so that's what we're asking today. So how do we do that? Remember the quote again? Eddie Hillison? Ultimately, you have just one more to reclaim large areas of peace. So how do we begin that process, reclaiming peace? Story number 1. How many of you, I was introduced, I'm a landscape, I don't even know what my title's called. I did seminary when I was young to become a reverend. And then when I moved to Vashon Island about 40 years ago, I fell in love with gardening. And so went back to Edmonds Community College, not far from here, and did horticulture. And here's what I say, because I wrote a book called Soul Gardening, and I say that here's what I love about my garden. Everything I learned about God in seminary and church, I unlearned. And the garden retaught me. Because of a phrase that I use in much of my writing. It's called the sacrament of the present moment. What does it mean to be here now? So I'm a garden fanatic, addicted, love gardens. So how many of you love gardens? Oh, okay, that was that. Oh, good. And this is what I love about Seattle, our town, is we like gardens. We like green. So how many of you are gardeners? Oh, not bad. That's really good. So Betty, I was a part of a group, and in a study group in West Seattle. I was on Vashon, West Seattle. Betty lived in West Seattle. Now, Betty, I love Betty. I never asked her age, but I'm going to guess upper 80s, somewhere. But Betty was great. Betty had spunk, and she did not mince her words. And Betty let you know how Betty felt. And I loved Betty. Betty was an amazing woman. Betty mothered 8 children. You ready for this? By herself on a boat in Alaska. So you don't mess with Betty. And now Betty in her upper 80s has children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and some ones below that. And so Betty lived by herself in a little home in West Seattle. And I was doing a thing about this, about finding your replenishing place emotional and spiritual hydration, find your replenishment. And Betty said, then I've got to show you something. You got to come to my garden. I said, okay, Betty. She said, I said, okay, Betty. So I went to her house in West Seattle, and her backyard literally was the size of this room. Not big. That was her garden. And so she said, I got to show you something. I said, okay, Betty. So those of you who are gardeners, you remember what it's like to start with a pathway? And it starts this wide, doesn't it? And then what happens when things grow, right? So Betty, and I'm not making this up, she said, here, I got to show you something. And so we're walking through her garden, and literally we had to do this because she had big pots and then stuff that was along the side. And this is it. And I'm thinking, because I'm actually a very good landscape architect. And I said, I'm thinking I can fix this. Obviously, Betty doesn't quite get it. But don't worry, I'll fix it for her, obviously. And so so we're walking, and I'm thinking of everything I'm going to do to fix her garden. And finally, we get around to the back over there, and it's around a corner, and there's an old wicker chair. Can you picture it now? A very old wicker chair. And she said, there it is. I said, what's that? She said, that's called when the world pisses me off chair. I said, Betty, that'll sell. That's good. She said, sometimes the world pisses me off. And she said, when it does, I need time in my chair. I said, Betty, that'll preach. And she said, and then she goes, and I'm thinking to myself, while I'm back there by Betty's chair, why does it have to be back there? I'm going to fix that for her too. And then I noticed way back in the corner on a wall is a climbing rose. So while she's in her chair, it's the rose and the bees that are part of the rose. So we're walking back, and I'm about to impart my wisdom to help her. And before I say anything, Betty says, did you notice the plants along the way? I said, yes, Betty, I did. She said, good. She said, because they're all herbs. And I noticed she wore blue jeans. And by the time she'd walked there and walked back, her blue jeans were covered with the fragrance of herbs. And then I realized the whole time we were walking, she was doing this with the herbs. And she taught me a lesson, the permission to be here now, and the permission to honor the world pisses me off chair, which is where you reclaim inner peace. And so it's one of the first questions, because it's an interesting thing. And you know what a paradigm is, right? Basically a set of glasses. It's the way we see. And one of the paradigm shifts I want us to, in this culture, our paradigm in this culture is predicated on what you do. In fact, that's what we ask each other, isn't it? When we meet a new stranger, what's the first thing you ask? What do you do? I mean, just stop for a minute. The first question, and we don't really mean what do you do, because we could say we walk our dogs, and they didn't mean that. What did they mean? Yeah. Think about that. The first question you ask a stranger in our culture is, how do you make money? That's the first question you ask, which is why when you're unemployed here, it's awkward, because you have to say, well, yeah. What would happen if we asked this, instead of asking, what do you do, ask, where's your world pisses me off chair? In other words, tell me, where do you reclaim peace? It'd be helpful to know with each other, because if I know that about you and you know that about me, we can help each other find those moments. Where are those moments for you? So that's number one, is the shift of the paradigm for the reclaiming of peace. The second thing is the weighing the fact that the peace reclaiming, well, let me pause for a second. I mean, I can say all of this, and it sounds okay, but it's not necessarily easy in the world we live in. So I wore this today. I didn't know how to dress. The other choice was I have a Mr. Rogers sweater. Mr. Rogers is my hero, and I wish Mr. Rogers was still with us today. Our culture could use Mr. Rogers. And one of my favorite Mr. Rogers stories is he was on the subway in New York City, and they were waiting for the next train, and there was a family, a young mother and her son, wee fella, and he had a lightsaber. Are you with me? Star Wars? Okay. He had a lightsaber, and he's whacking everyone. Literally, whacking everyone. And the mother's trying to get him, stop. And he didn't listen to his mother. He kept whacking. And he was whacking Mr. Rogers. And she said, please, you can't hit Mr. Rogers. I think it's against the law to hit Mr. Rogers. And the kid didn't stop. Kid's still hitting Mr. Rogers. And Fred Rogers is the best, because Fred Rogers ignores the adults, just talks to the kids. So he actually got down on his knees with the little boy. Tell me why he got on his knees with the little boy. Exactly. So he's eye to eye with the little guy, and no one can hear them. It's just whisper, 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 whisper. And the little boy puts away his lightsaber. And he said goodbye and went on his way. And there were two college-age students who worked for his TV show, were with him. And about 20 minutes later, what did they ask him? Tell me, what did you say to the kid? This might come in handy. You know, help us out here. And I love this. Fred said, oh, well, I got down there, and I looked him in the eyes, and I said, hi there. My name's Mr. Rogers. I like you. I want to be your friend. Tell me your name. And he told me his name, and I said, that's a mighty fine sword you have. I've seen lots of swords, but that's one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. Mr. Rogers has a sword, too. It's a big old wood one. I keep it in here. And whenever I think someone's going to hurt me, I take my sword out. And whenever I think life's unfair, I take my sword out. And whenever I think I'm not going to be okay, I take my sword out. He said, but then there are times when I know that deep down I'm loved and I'm okay. And on those days, I put my sword away. He said, I can tell by looking in your eyes, you're a very loved little boy. Your mother loves you very much. And the little boy said, I guess I can put my sword away today. Reclaiming inner peace. Not that we don't have them, we have the swords. But I guess I can put it away today. So how do we do that in terms of transforming suffering, et cetera? Richard Rohr has a great thing that if we don't transform suffering, we will transmit suffering. It's a great quote. So it's a connection to what y'all are doing here. So this is a story about, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was doing a conference, and I was at a hotel. And I didn't realize this about Atlanta. They have the same thing as we do. They have an underground city. So there's an underground Atlanta, just like we have underground Seattle. They have underground Atlanta, and so, but anyway, I said to the concierge in the hotel, I said, I need a haircut. Because I don't know, I wanted to look whatever, young or something. But I said, I need a haircut, and she said, okay, there's a barber salon in underground Atlanta, which I didn't even know existed. It's a block over, go underground, there's a barber salon. I said, okay, let me get this straight. I'm going to go underground, and there's a barber salon. This might not be good. But anyway, I went over and walked in, and there's the young woman who is the hair barber woman. She was vivacious, and she had tattoos and piercings, but she had her hairstyle was a bob. You know, it's like this. and curled like this. And she just came over there, and she was just full of life. And here's the deal. Sometimes I just don't like to talk to people, don't need to. And when I'm getting my hair cut's one of them. I just don't need to talk. It's okay. But this woman, she just came over and she says, hey. I'm thinking, wow, she's so full of life. So I thought I'd speak her language. So I said, hey. And she said, how are you? And I thought, I'm great. And then I realized, this is an adorable woman. She's making me glad to be alive. I'm okay now. And so we sit in the chair, and you know how they start with, what can I do? And there's another fellow over there getting his hair shaved, his head shaved. And I just thought I'd try to be funny. And I said, give me what he's got. And then to elaborate on my joke, I said, that way I can look like my father. My father is a cancer survivor who lost all his hair from chemo. And my father, a Midwestern Michigan boy, after his hair lost, he realized that's not a bad way to live, not having to mess with my hair. And for the rest of his life, he always had his hair shaved off. He just liked it that way. I said, that way I could look like my father. And then to explain to her, I said, my father is a cancer survivor. Anyway, so I said, why don't you just take a little bit off? And so she's clipping. And I don't know, have you been in conversations where somebody says a sentence and you weren't really prepared for that? So she's clipping, and after a few minutes of clipping, she says this sentence, I'm a cancer survivor too. I mean, I was guessing her mid-30s anyway. And so first words out of my mouth were, I'm sorry. Let me pause a minute. I have a degree in pastoral theology and pastoral care. Someone just told me they were a survivor, and I said, I'm sorry. And I said, that's something. Her name is Sharon. I said, that's something. Do you mind telling me your story? And she did. And she's a single mother in her mid-30s. The father of her daughter, who's now 16, was not a good man. And so that relationship ended some time ago. She raised her daughter from the time her daughter was quite young. And when her daughter was 15, her daughter and she had not an easy relationship. And she said then she got the cancer, and that year she and her daughter became bonded more than ever. And I said, wow. And I said, and she's talking about all the things that she'd gone through for her cancer. I said, that's amazing, Sharon. And then I look in the mirror and I look at her hair, and she had it like a certain color too. It was something else. And I said, your hair is adorable. And then I thought, oh, it's not her hair. She just told me her story. And so I thought, oh, Lord. But she was so great. She just went, she shook it. She went, thanks. She said, I made it myself. And then she said this. She said, it's my new calling in life. I make wigs for cancer survivors. And then she told me stories about sitting with women and talking with them about their story and talking about the hair that she's about to make for them. And then she said this, because I want them to feel beautiful, not just on the outside, but on the inside too. The permission. What was it? Reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace to reflect it toward others. And the more peace there is in us, the more peace there will also be in our troubled world. So, that's the end of my talk. But it's conversation time, is that what we do? And so it's actually a thing about, no, here's before we have a conversation as a group, I want you to have a conversation with the person next to you. Literally, the conversation is this. When you think of the world's pisses me off chair, where is that place for you? You can say a where or a what. I mean, if I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to tell you the garden, and I'm going to tell you where in the garden, and I'm going to tell you the time of day. But the good thing is it's different for all of us. Where is that place for you where there's replenishment and restoration of inner peace? All right? And you can also, if you want to, talk about if we get a world's pisses me off chair for your church, where do we put it? Anyway, all right, pair off. Where's the world pisses me off chair? Just have a couple more minutes, 2 more minutes.
Do you want me to play a little music to get them to quiet down, and then we can go on with the questions, or do you want to go right into? You can get it.
So let's make it a group conversation. But let me say this. I find it, just like I said to the hospice workers, one day I need one of you. The truth is that in a community, one day we need one another. And one of the things that I find beneficial for the friends I have who know me best is they know where that pisses me off chair is for me. Because the truth is, sometimes we don't see our rundownness as much as our friends see it. And it helps to have a friend say, okay, you need your chair time. Whatever it is. And so it's beneficial to begin the conversation. So let's make it an open conversation now. Comments, questions, however we want to do this. A conversation of what we were just talking about.
Pass the mic. Wants to share.
I resonate with the someday I'm going to need you kind of thing. My sister just sent me a Ram Dass quote recently, and I don't know if I'll get it exactly right, but it's like we're all of life is just, we're walking each other home. We're walking each other home. It's just like, oh, yeah. And remembering the walk part of it, not running, and the home part of it. It's just like the home is that ultimate where the whole path is, as Richard Rohr, I think he was quoting St. Bonaventure, the whole path is emanation, individuation, and consummation. And so there's that walking each other home and how we need each other in that walk home. And so, yeah, a lot of those things came up in your talk.
Yeah, the Ram Dass quote is the one, it's actually on my Sabbath moment that I write, my blog. That's my theme line. Because the reality is that none of us are on this journey alone. It's a we. This is a we game, not an I game. And so one of the things that's a little unfortunate in our culture now is that the focus on I, certain personalities and the way we can do that. But when we, and I love what you said about the home part, because the home part, and this is what's great, we're not walking each other, let's go find this place that we're supposed to be, as in there's a should. No, the home is simply an affirmation of what is there, what is real. Yes.
That reminds me of one of our good friends from Uganda is a Catholic priest, and he comes and he and I, we talk pretty much every night except for his Sunday morning. And throughout, ups and downs in Uganda and throughout ups and downs in my life, one time I was really not feeling really well, and I said, well, I didn't want to tell you what happened because I don't want you to suffer, like you to worry. And he said, but you should always tell me how you're suffering so we can suffer together, and together we can make it through the suffering. And the deeper part within myself was how I had been looking at it was like, if I tell you my problem, then you'll feel my problem, and then you'll feel sad. And I hadn't put us together, like we can be happy sad because we're together. And that was a really nice new revelation for me. I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't know it before, but
That's a great, just so I'm just going to let you know, one, it's a great story, and two, because I'm a storyteller, and wherever I go, I'm telling stories. I'm going to use that story, but I'll give you credit for it. It's
Oh,
just-
you don't have to give me.
I
That's
just-
he'll be happy.
It's
to
a
use
great
this,
story.
Yeah. That redeems myself for not getting it to begin with.
Yeah, that's a great story.
I know there are other stories in there.
The thing that comes up with your story, Gretchen, is the word compassion. Com means with, and passion means to suffer. And so compassion is suffering with. And yeah, I get that, because we want to help others with their suffering, but it's hard to offer our suffering as a gift, to allow ourselves that vulnerability is a huge gift. And I love the fact that you're here in our congregation and you cry so much and you offer your heart so beautifully, Gretchen. Thank you.
I didn't want to say anything because I frequently, that's my son, Bryce, who's doing the live streaming. And I thought, I always talk about Bryce. And I don't want to embarrass him, but when he was little, he said, "Mom, aren't you embarrassed that you talk so much?" So now we're together in our suffering. But I want to acknowledge how I have cancer. I'm on palliative care, and I cry. Even before that, I'm just a naturally crier. And Bryce, he's such a great human being. Not just that he's my son, but talk about being able to share. And he has said to me, "Mom, you can cry, tell me anything, you can cry to me." And here he is, 32, and I'm 62, and I have sobbed to him. And he's been able to talk me through or whatever, be compassionate, tell me logical things, be both. Have you tried this, or how are you feeling? Do you want me to come over, or whatever? And it's not easy. When he was young, we were watching a TV show and there was a baby crying, and he took out his binky and walked it to the TV to give to the baby. And I was like, oh my God, he's a little boy. How's he going to get through this world being so kind? And he did, and he is. So thank you, Bryce. And I love you.
We're quiet today. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I resonate, or I guess identify with the word being empath, and I think that would be you, Gretchen, and probably a lot of us here. And I've learned a lot from a woman named Anita Morjani. She's an Indian woman who was dying of cancer and had a NDE experience, and all of her teaching is about how to take care of yourself as an empath and how to not overgive. And so she believes that she got cancer because she was too much of a people pleaser, and too much was trained in to be just too much. So it's a balance. But her tagline, one of the things she says is, "Love yourself like your life depends on it, because it does." Mm-hmm. So the whole thing of making sure you take care of yourself as you suffer, it's always a challenge, right? But I like what you said about being happy, sad together. So you're kind of you are taking care of yourself, and you're feeling, someone else's pain or the world's pain. But it's a challenge for empaths, people that kind of are feelers and they feel everything, to do things that keep us from suffering too much, I guess, would be the way to say it. But yeah.
Yeah, I was good because the people I were talking to are empaths, and the one word that empathic people have a very difficult time saying is the word no. Because we want to be available, so we say yes, and so because sometimes it's important to say no to this so that I can say yes to this. And and I'm wholeheartedly about the tears, because tears and laughter come from the exact same spot, their heart. I mean, it's not separate places that they're stored. Yeah. It's great. I have, can I tell one more story? So, because just in responding to this part, this is mothers relate to this story, but anyway, the son, he's a little fella, was having nightmares. And I don't want to sound in a certain way, but if you're having nightmares, they would tend to go to their mother more than their father, I'm just saying, generally. Because their dad would usually say, go to your mother. Or go back to bed. Yeah, go back to bed. So it's, Mama, I'm having nightmares. And she said, it's okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to your room. I want you to kneel down by your bed. I want you to pray to Jesus, get back in bed, and he'll fix it. So he went back to his room. He knelt down by his bed. He prayed to Jesus. He got back in bed, and he had more nightmares. In other words, this is... So anyway, back to Mama's room. Mama, I'm having nightmares. It's okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back. Well, this is... Now he's the fifth time, because nightmares are not a one-time thing when you're a little kid. Fifth time, Mama, I'm having nightmares. She said, it's okay, honey. He said, Mama, I know the drill. I'm going to go back to my room. I'm going to kneel down by my bed. I'm going to pray to Jesus, and he'll fix it. But before I do that, can I lay in bed with you and have you hold me? And she said, sure, honey. Why? He said, because, Mama, sometimes I need Jesus with skin on it. I need Jesus with skin on it. I need to remember we're connected. I need to remember. I know we have to things to finish the service, but your I can't say assignment, but your recommendation, sometime today with someone you know, have a conversation about the world pisses me off chairs. Where are those? And it's not just for ourselves individually, which is necessary, but it's for each other too.
I'm going to offer one more short musical selection called Belle of the Afternoon. So now is our chance to offer our gratitude to our community in the form of offerings. We give a lot in this community to each other as human beings, and to our neighbors and friends and people in need, and to our beautiful historic building, the time we give, the energy to keep it up and keep it in good shape, and keep it in a safe way. And some of that takes money and funds, and we are grateful for the folks who can give online when they hear our service or share our work here online, people who come to classes and workshops and book groups and study groups, and who give generously for their use of space. And we appreciate all that, because it does keep us going within the real world where we have to function somehow or other. So we thank you for helping us with that and keeping us afloat, as they say, and solvent, as they say. There are a lot of gatherings that go on. We are not just a Sunday morning place, but we definitely are a Sunday morning place. And right after this service today, and well, not right after, but 11:45, after we've had some time to socialize, we have time for our guiding council meeting, which meets once a month, and we discuss our business, the activities that are going on that need attention, and decisions we need to make. And that happens at 11:45, the first Sunday of every month. We have classes, we have meditation groups, we have whirling dervishes and mystical, groups who look into mystical texts, and the Masnawi by Rumi, and divine feminine books. Chris is leading a book discussion group. So go online and look at our upcoming gatherings, look at what our ongoing gatherings. Some happen every week, some twice a month, some once a month. It varies, so you want to look up for something that will interest you and appeals to you, and see when it meets, where it meets. Sometimes it's in the sanctuary, sometimes it's online, sometimes it's hybrid, and it could be both. So you want to check that out. We try to make things available to as many people as possible. We also have some special and kind of special events that go on. And one is a new one-day workshop that Jamal is offering with two other of his spiritual friends and teachers, Gina Salah and Elizabeth DeQuine. They're joining together with Jamal on Saturday, June 20th, for a special summer workshop entitled Joy, Love, Unity, and Hope. It will be here in person only, here at the sanctuary from 9:30 to 1:30. Yes, and it will include beautiful chanting. It'll include meditation. It'll include insights and teachings, and we'll do some dances for universal peace, which is what Elizabeth DeQuine is such a wonderful expert in and teacher in. And she does her dances for universal peace about once a month or once every other month when she's in town. She tries to plan that as an event that happens usually on a Friday evening. But she'll be part of Jamal's workshop, so there'll be some of that on this Saturday workshop as well. So talk to Jamal or myself and get signed up for that. We do need to have a registration for that, and we do ask for an offering on a sliding scale basis, so we would appreciate that. And I don't know, are there some other community events coming up that I should be talking about? Next Sunday's service is our universal worship, and we have Joey Klein will be presenting the readings for that service, where we have our altar in the middle, and we have all the different we have 7 or 8 different faith traditions represented. And Isla Ross will be Jamal's musician. Isla Ross has her Friday evening sound. Right. June 26th, Isla Ross has her Friday evening. Yes, and they did a beautiful sound, a beautiful mandala. She was showing me a candle mandala last month when they got together. Very creative, very expressive. It's a very beautiful, artistic, expressive way of nourishing oneself in community. And I think she does that once a month. I think it's always the 3rd or the 4th Friday of the month. I'm not sure whether it's the 3rd or the 4th, but you want to look that up on the calendar too. Any other events that need to be? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Wild Church, our Earth Circle that I do over at Carkeek was supposed to happen this past Saturday, but I put it off till next Saturday. So this coming Saturday, Earth Circle, 9 o'clock over at Carkeek. I usually send out an email to let people know exactly where to find us. And then August 8th is going to be the retreat over at Earth Sanctuary, and I still haven't designed a way to sign up for that, but that's coming, and the subject is going to be the South on the medicine wheel. So we'll go through the medicine wheel. We'll concentrate on the South, which is summer energy, and you'll have time to explore the beautiful Earth Sanctuary and spend a day out there.
And that's Saturday.
Saturday, August 8th.
Okay, so keep up with us online if you need, extra reminders of these wonderful events, and stay with us because so many people get nourishment in so many different ways, just as Terry's been pointing out. And the more we can introduce ourselves to new ways of being nourished, I think the more chance we will have of remembering to do it for ourselves. And I was just thinking when I was playing the piano just now, there was a reason I decided to do the music. I don't usually do the music. I'm usually looking for musicians. But this last 2 weeks, I've needed to come here and practice every day. And I've needed to do that. And I haven't wanted to not do it. And so having a purpose for doing it, and knowing that I was going to then share the music with my people, has been really healing for me this week. And I appreciate that. I will admit that took some courage. It did. You may think, oh, Sally Jo, she can do it. No, that took a lot of courage. But I felt I needed it, and I wanted to share it. So you might be surprised sometimes where you find that chair and where you find that nourishment. But if you find it, lap it up and then give it out, right? That's what, Terry, you...
I could say, if you find it, whatever you just said about lap it up or whatever, but I mean, we don't give ourselves permission. We don't give ourselves permission to find replenishment in those places because we have other stuff we need to get done, etc. But yeah.
So we'll say goodbye and thank you to folks online for being with us. We'll take a few minutes if we have prayers to offer or to request. I keep the microphone on just so we all can hear here. I know that many of you know Miwan, who is a friend of ours, of our community. She hasn't been here in